Hey everyone, today I'm joined by fellow creators and friends of mine, PG Reviews and Nintendo Hero. Today we're going to be deciding once and for all what the best game Nintendo has ever released is. This will be done in sort of a tournament style bracket where two games are matched up and we each pick one we think is better until we have a winner. We may factor in things like influence on the medium, timelessness, all that fun stuff, but it'll ultimately come down to how we perceive the game's quality. There are 64 games on this list, and they were picked from a mixture of high critical acclaim, fan reception as measured by backlogged.com, and a couple of my own picks thrown in there to keep you all on your toes. Pokemon games have been excluded from this list because they occupy kind of a weird gray area where they're more of a second party thing, but really none of us like Pokemon anyway, so we're doing you Pokemon fans a favor here. Since this list has so many games, there are going to be gaps in some of our knowledge. In the event that two or more people have not played a game, we're going to decide based on vibes. Which of the two options feels like they should progress? If a tie must be decided by somebody who hasn't played one or more of the games, the same rules apply. Alright, so I think that's all I needed to cover. So, what do we like better? Super Mario 64 or Earthbound?
Oh boy, right off the bat, this is tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be like this throughout the entire thing. Like, these are all really great games, so it'll be hard. So Earthbound, I only just played recently for the first time, and I really liked it. Like, I don't think I would have been down for this kind of game a couple years ago, but playing it now is really able to appreciate all that it does well. Obviously, Super Mario 64 is like super iconic and influential and still like highly relevant to this day. So I don't know, like I could go either way on this one, but I think Earthbound is a little more to my personal tastes.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to because they're both super influential games. Earthbound has shaped RPGs in a lot of ways, and Mario 64 is obviously probably one of the most influential games of all time. So I would probably lean Super Mario 64 just because it's had a larger impact, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a better impact, because I do think in some ways I like Earthbound a bit more.
Yeah.
I adore Earthbound with all my heart. I think that it's definitely a game that's greater than the sum of its parts. I love the history about the way that it was made, and I love the game itself, how weird and quirky it is, and its social and political commentary and all that. But Super Mario 64 is just the movement in that game and the way that players have been able to push the limits of what's possible in terms of speedrunning specifically. I can't get enough of Super Mario 64. I think that it is incredibly fun to play, and I think that while Earthbound had a really big impact on RPGs, I think that Mario 64 had just an impact on games in general going forward. So I'm gonna have to say Mario 64 for as much as I love Earthbound.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, it would feel wrong for Super Mario 64 to not progress. I think I like the games, like, for the most part equally, but even though, like, in some ways I prefer Earthbound. So I think we all agree Super Mario 64, as painful as it is to eliminate Earthbound so early.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
It's painful, but I agree.
So next we have Ocarina of Time versus Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh man, this is just going to be painful the whole way through.
Yeah, and like this is the thing too, is I randomized the order of this list. So like this is just kind of luck of the draw. Like the entire list be shit like this. It's terrible. My thoughts, like, I think Zelda, just kind of as a series, the conventions that it uses in its game design are more to my taste than Mario. As much as Odyssey is probably one of my favorite 3D platformers ever. Just kind of like, the main story and gameplay and, just scenario of Ocarina of Time, I think I like more than Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning towards Ocarina of Time as well, just because, structurally, I think it's a little bit more sound, because Odyssey is a super fun game, like, crazy fun, but it's kind of like, it's up to you to set your own pace, which is part of what makes it so great. But in terms of, game design, Ocarina of Time established such a great sense of adventure in a 3D space. It's such a revolutionary game for its time, and it still holds up today. So I probably lean towards Zelda as well, but it's tough because Odyssey is also one of my favorite Nintendo games of all time. So
Yeah, that's another thing is like, Ocarina of Time is arguably as influential and important as Super Mario 64. So, that's another factor to consider. It sounds like we both agree Ocarina of Time, but Pedro, you want to add anything?
No, I agree. This will basically be like a unanimous vote. Odyssey is great and all, and I know that I just glazed Mario 64. I like the two for very similar reasons. But I definitely have some more problems with Odyssey, mainly concerning like the process of getting all the moons and just sort of like the repetitive nature of the gameplay at certain points in the game. Whereas Ocarina of Time is just, I won't call it flawless, but it's just such a well-made game, and it's all the more impressive considering it was the first 3D Zelda game and like one of the first 3D action games to get all of these different mechanics right, from the lock-on and the combat and exploration, and like how Hiro said, just the sense of adventure in this 3D environment and to this scale is just amazing for its time, and I still think it is to this day. So I'm gonna have to give it to Ocarina.
Absolutely. Okay. As much as it sucks for, Mario Odyssey to get eliminated in the first round too, I think that's the only choice that we could make there. Okay, so now we're coming down to Super Mario Bros. Wonder versus Animal Crossing New Leaf. So for me, like, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm not a big Animal Crossing guy. Don't really like life sim type games. So I like Mario Wonder. I wouldn't call it like one of my favorite 2D platformers or anything, but it is a great game, and I'd probably play it over New Leaf any day.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I easily put New Leaf here. Like, New Leaf is the peak of the Animal Crossing series. I think it's one of the best games on 3DS. Period. And I really like Mario Wonder. Like, there's a lot going for that game, especially since it kind of like freshened up the 2D Mario series at a time when it really needed it. But New Leaf, the vibes of New Leaf are just so good. I have so many amazing memories with that game. So for me, I have to go New Leaf here.
All right. What's the tiebreaker?
Yeah, I'm with Hero. A lot of it does have to do with nostalgia, but New Leaf was my Animal Crossing game, and I can't deny, like, yeah, the vibes in that game are just absolutely immaculate, and I just have a lot of fond memories of booting the game up and playing it for about half an hour every day after school, and just slowly growing my town and hanging out with my villagers. Wonder is really good. I really liked it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite 2D Mario game or even like one of my favorite 2D platformers in general, which is probably why I would give the edge to New Leaf, even though I still think it's a very good game and I had a lot of fun with it.
All right, fair enough. I'm not mad at it. If we were eliminating Metroid Prime 2 here, I might fucking riot. But like New Leaf, as I know so many people love that game, so I think it deserves to move on. Okay, so next we got Mario Kart Wii versus Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Very different games, and I love both with all my heart. So this is going to be really tough for me, but I know, like, without a doubt which way I'm leaning. Xenoblade 3 is, without a doubt, my favorite entry in the series. And, its narrative touches on so many, like, poignant themes that deeply resonated with me. I love all the characters. And the world, the music, just everything about the game is fantastic. So that would have to be my pick, as much as I love Mario Kart Wii. It was my childhood Mario Kart game. It was the one that introduced me to the series. I still play it regularly on my Steam Deck. I'll boot it up on Wii and just play a Grand Prix every so often. I love that game to death, but it's got to be Xenoblade 3 for me.
Yeah, this one's tough because it's kind of like the two different halves of my brain, because Xenoblade is like story focused, this like huge narrative, slow-paced game. Like, it takes 60 hours to beat it. And Mario Kart Wii is like super quick, fast, action-packed game that I grew up with. So, like, man, it's tough to try and pick which one since they're so different. I really like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I think it's a fantastic addition to the series, but I think I still prefer the original personally, because I don't know, I felt like the story kind of got messy by the end, but I know it obviously resonated with a lot of people. So, I don't know, it like comes down to nostalgia, I guess. I just have so many great memories and time with Mario Kart Wii that I might actually pick Mario Kart Wii over Xenoblade here.
I'm nervous for the tiebreaker.
All right, you two seems to struggle a bit with this one. And I think Mario Kart Wii is really good. It's really great, but Xenoblade 3 I think is just so much better, at least for my personal taste. That it's like a hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby situation for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like again, that's not to bash Mario Kart Wii. It's more just to like me express how great of a game I think Xenoblade 3 is. I mean, the first Xenoblade is my favorite game of all time, and 2 and 3 aren't really far behind, and three's combat is super addictive. I find that its world is really enchanting and fun to explore, and its story and themes are just immaculate and just really I just blazed through that game in like a matter of weeks, put like about 80 hours into it until I reached the end. That's how hooked I was in the story of 3 and the characters especially. I might even say that like Noah and Mio as protagonists are probably the best protagonists in the Xenoblade trilogy.
I
My answer
definitely
might
agree.
change if you ask me another day because I kind of like flip flop back and forth on that matter, but yeah, it just for me, it's really no contest. Just Xenoblade 3 is amazing in so many ways. I'd have to give my vote to that game.
Amen. This one is one I could see making to like the semifinals for me personally, if it was like just up to me doing this list. But good pick. Okay. So now we got Star Fox 64 versus Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this one is gonna probably give us some spicy takes here. I'm not like a huge Star Fox guy. Star Fox 64 is probably the best Star Fox game that I've played. I just don't care all that much really for the gameplay. I know like the whole point is, replaying it, taking all the different routes and, mastering the mechanics. And that's just not really a way that I like to play games. I like more like systems to engage with, like narrative focus, and then kind of like achieving mastery through that, if that makes sense. I don't really like replay stuff like that super often. And Tears of the Kingdom is definitely more in line with what I described, as much as I have problems with that game. It is ultimately a sequel to Breath of the Wild, which is one of my absolute favorite games ever. And, it carries many of those strengths with it. So Tears of the Kingdom would be my pick here.
Yeah. There's kind of like a petty side to me that wants to pick Star Fox 64 over Tears of the Kingdom because I have a lot of problems with that game and I think it stumbles in a lot of areas. And in some ways, Star Fox 64 is a more complete, cohesive package that has less issues. But I think Tears of the Kingdom reaches higher highs because it swings so hard in so many areas. And again, it just kind of comes down to personal taste. Like I'm like you, where I don't usually super love sort of like score-based replaying levels type games. So yeah, I agree that Tears of the Kingdom is the pick here.
All right, this might shock you guys because I have some feelings, some particular feelings about Tears of the Kingdom. But keep in mind, we are ultimately trying to decide the best Nintendo game, of all time, I guess. And Star Fox 64 is great. And I would definitely would say that it has way less wrinkles than Tears of the Kingdom does overall. But I just have to give it to Tears of the Kingdom as much as like I would want to give it to Star Fox 64. Tears of the Kingdom, I can definitely see it being more of like, a contender for like greatest Nintendo game of all time to like move further along in the bracket, and it also just appeals in general to my tastes more. Like I like score attack games. I like games like Star Fox, but I'll take like an adventure story driven whatever story there is in this game, but you know what I mean. Like just more like an action adventure game over something like a Star Fox game. Even though Star Fox games, I definitely boot up 64 from time to time as well, just for like a quick fix, but I'll give it to Tears of the Kingdom.
You sound so happy to do that. Okay, so next we have Zelda Majora's Mask versus Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. So full disclosure here, I have not beaten Path of Radiance. I did play a little bit of it, just in preparation for this because I knew it would be on this list. And like my first impressions of this game are like, damn, this is really awesome. I've never played a Fire Emblem before other than this one, but I definitely want to go back to it. Like the art direction for the GameCube was impressive. The soundtrack was great. I had a surprising amount of fun with the combat, and there wasn't a whole lot of like narrative of what I played, but I'm sure it'll pick up later. And from what I hear about the game, I'm sure it's at least pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, like it sucks that it has to be, kind of spoiler for my opinion, but like Majora's Mask, it's no contest. Like I would have to eliminate Path of Radiance, as much as I'm sure it's a great game.
Yeah. I haven't played Path of Radiance. It's one of those Nintendo games that I really want to play, and the second it gets added to GameCube Online, I'm playing it immediately, because I've only played Fire Emblem Awakening, but I already can tell I really like this series, and Path of Radiance seems to be one of the best. But I agree that Majora's Mask is just an absolutely incredible achievement. It's like a fantastic game. It goes places that few other games have ever gone before. So yeah, I agree.
Majora's Mask is the winner by default for me, because I too have not played Path of Radiance as much as I want to. And like Hiro said, I will definitely be playing it when it gets added to GameCube Online, because there's no way in hell I'm paying $200 for a physical copy of that game. And I do really like Fire Emblem as well, from the few games that I've played. But I mean, even if I did play it, I've heard great things about Path of Radiance, but I can't really see a scenario where Majora's Mask still wouldn't win, because that's always like a contender for one of my favorite 3D Zelda games. Well, Zelda games in general, really. I just love that game to bits. I love its thematic core, and unlike a certain other game that we just talked about in the earlier round, I think that the way that it handles being a sequel that borrows heavily from its predecessor in more ways than one is a lot more compelling and interesting to me. And the final result is just a much, it's just a great game all around. So Majora's Mask.
Absolutely. We're lucky that, Path of Radiance was up against such a banger, because we don't have to take too much heat for, putting Majora's Mask over it. Okay, so the next couple are going to be kind of interesting. This is just how the list happened to randomize them. So we're going to have 2 Pikmin games versus 2 Donkey Kong Country games. And they are like set up in such a way to where like I'm really going to struggle with these. I'm looking at them now and I'm like not even sure what I'm going to pick. So first we got Pikmin 4 versus Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I'm going to need someone else to talk about these, because I need to get my brain working here. This is really tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I think just like initially based off of vibes, I probably would go Tropical Freeze, just because I think Pikmin 4 is absolutely incredible, but it's expanding the series in so many new ways with Ochi and the 3D camera that's different, and the difficulty's kind of been changed from the way it was previously. And so I don't know though. Pikmin 4 is fantastic, but Tropical Freeze is just like one of the best 2D platformers ever made. I think Tropical Freeze is rare, retro, like they perfected what they were trying to do in Returns the first time, and then with Tropical Freeze, it's just like taking it to another level. I think that game is phenomenal. Like every level is a standout. So it's close for me, but if I really think about it, I think Tropical Freeze is the pick for me, because I feel like Pikmin 5 will be the game where they really perfect this new era of Pikmin that started with Pikmin 4. But yeah, so for me, it's Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, so I actually have not beaten Pikmin 4. I did play a bit of it, but I did stop playing it for a reason, and just for reasons that I haven't really exactly been able to pinpoint exactly. It just wasn't really captivating me as much as the other games did. I think part of it had to do with maybe like I didn't find it to be very difficult, even though again I didn't get very far in. I'd say a respectable number of hours into the game. It wasn't really seeming to emphasize the time management that I really liked about the previous games as well. I would like to go back to it and actually finish it. In my opinion, might change. But similar to like the last round with Path of Radiance, even if I did finish Pikmin 4 and ended up really liking it, I don't see myself giving it to anything but Tropical Freeze, because I love Tropical Freeze. I think it's one of the best 2D platformers ever made. I think the level design is superb. it looks gorgeous, and just the way that there's like the way that the environment is incorporated into the level design in this game is just really impressive to me. So I gotta give it to Tropical Freeze, and it's Donkey Kong, so can you really blame me?
True. Yeah, so Tropical Freeze wins just by default without me having to do anything, which makes my life a lot easier. I'm still like not even sure what I would go with here. So here's my thing is like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a great game. It's probably my second favorite entry in the DKC series. Pikmin 4 is also awesome. I have a lot of problems with it, but it's like some of the most fun I've had, playing Pikmin. So I would also call it my second favorite in the series. And my first favorite in the respective series are down here in this next bracket. So I'm just kind of dreading that, and that's kind of making my decision a little harder. I think I would probably hand it to Tropical Freeze as well, just by like a millimeter. Like it is so close between these two games, but ultimately like the soundtrack and the gameplay just keeps me coming back to it all the time. I haven't revisited Pikmin 4 since I've first played it, which I can't say about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So that speaks to something there, I think. So yeah, I think I agree with y'all. Tropical Freeze moves on. Okay, so now we have Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest versus Pikmin 1. So Pikmin 1 is my favorite entry in the series. I think it emphasizes its like strategy elements the most and the most effectively out of all of the other entries in the series. And it's also the most replayable. There's like just the right amount of jank in the game to make it like funny and still fun, but just like the right amount of getting on your nerves. So I think like for what Pikmin is, it's a near perfect game. Donkey Kong Country 2 is up there with one of my favorite platformers ever. I love secret hunting. I love the music. I love the environments. I love all the gimmicks in each stage. It's such a perfect balance of everything that like a platformer should have going on. And it's astonishing that they accomplished that in like, 1995? So I think the edge might go slightly to DKC2 for me.
Yeah, this is yet another tough one. These games are kind of like equal in my mind, but I think I probably am the same as you, where I think DKC2 is just a little bit ahead. Yeah, it's tough. But I think DKC2, the music is incredible. The visuals for what the hardware was were like, they went so above and beyond what should have been capable. And Pikmin, I love Pikmin 1 has this super unique atmosphere of survival and the beauty of nature contrasted with the harshness of nature that none of the later ones really captured quite as well, I feel like. So Pikmin 1 is an incredible game, and like it feels bad to say that DKC2 wins here, but I think that's where I have to go as much as Pikmin 1 is fantastic.
Yeah, and I will also say that DKC2 should move forward because Pikmin, again, it is tough still even for me because these are also my favorite games in their respective series. Pikmin, as was said earlier, I feel like it's just like the currently like the perfect iteration of this specific formula. Like I really like its strategy elements, the time management, just the right amount of difficulty, just the right amount of jank that makes you want to break your controller, but also laugh at the same time. And I also really like Olimar's characterization in this game, which I think that the other games lack in that sort of way in like the story department. But DKC2 is just so fun. I really like the pirate theme. Its music is just, I love its music so much. And it's the secrets and the platforming, the level design, the animal buddies inject like a really fun element into it, especially more so compared to like the previous game DKC1. So yeah, it has to be DKC2 for me.
Yeah, I think this is another one. Like, if we were doing my like personal bracket, this would be moving to like at least top 8. This is gonna be so fucking hard, man. I'm not looking forward to this next like group here. Okay, so now we have Kid Icarus Uprising versus Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. So I'll just be real direct with this one. I do not like Kid Icarus Uprising. it's not even a contest for me. Like I really like the Thousand Year Door. Kid Icarus Uprising is just like a little too simplistic in some of its systems for me, and like I don't know, I don't think it pulls off being an action game very well. And then there's the whole thing of like, you know, the controls just like really hurting to engage with after like a relatively short amount of time when you're playing on 3DS. So like all that, you know, combined with the fact that like I just don't feel very strongly about like anything this game has going on, makes me just kind of default towards the Thousand Year Door. And you know, Thousand Year Door is great. I love that game. It's probably without a doubt, my favorite Paper Mario. As someone who doesn't enjoy like even some of the classic entries in the series, Thousand Year Door's just got it all. You know, it's got the great soundtrack, battle system, bunch of wacky scenarios you'd want from a great Mario RPG. And, you know, I was really impressed with it the first time I played it. So that's where I'm at.
This is kind of an interesting collection of two games because both of these I kind of had in my head as two of the best Nintendo games ever made before I even played them. Because like both of these games have been really hyped up by the community. So going into both of these, I kind of had high expectations. And I think I'd have to say that Kid Icarus Uprising met those expectations a little bit more than Thousand Year Door, for me at least. Because I really like Thousand Year Door. I think it's amazing, but I think the years of hearing how it's like the perfect Mario RPG and stuff, once I actually played it myself, it was kind of like I kept waiting for it to, I don't know, go to the next level, and it never really did for me. As much as I think that game is like really solid, a great adventure, that each chapter having its own distinct vibe is fantastic. And Kid Icarus is held back by its controls, but I think it's just like the overall general theming of the Greek mythology and the music and the way the levels have this massive scale, like beyond anything that most Nintendo games have. And the constant voice acting, I usually don't love constant voice acting, but I think the humor is amazing, the writing is great, all the characters are fantastic. Just based off of vibes, I'd probably go Kid Icarus Uprising, even though in some ways Thousand Year Door is a better game. I think just purely personal opinion, I would go with Kid Icarus Uprising.
Okay. What's the tiebreaker going to be? I'm nervous.
If you had asked me a couple of years ago, I probably would have gone with Uprising. I really like its characters, I like its music. And if you had asked me back then, you know, I would have said that the controls didn't really bother me too much. I still think it's very impressive for the 3DS, for the system that it's on. And I really enjoy, as a really big fan of Smash Brothers, I like Sakurai's personality and direction is just like everywhere in this game, from the menus and the achievement system and all that. But now, like, I'm definitely a lot less tolerant to the controls, probably because I've gotten older and my hands just can't handle cramping up. Like, they just can't help but cramp up within like 10 to 15 minutes of playing. And not even that, but I feel like even like the level design and like just how boxed in some of it is sort of like a consequence of the same general control problem. And so there's definitely like a lot of frustrating elements in the game now when I go back to play it. And Thousand Year Door is probably the best Paper Mario game, probably the best Mario RPG in general. It's just so imaginative in ways that, you know, some of the later Mario RPGs weren't, but, you know, that's probably a discussion for another time. But I think I'd have to give it to Thousand Year Door. As much as I still like Uprising, I think Thousand Year Door is better.
All right. Thank fucking God this game doesn't progress. Okay, so now we have F-Zero GX versus Kirby in the Forgotten Land. So, like, here's kind of the interesting thing for me is, you know, as much as I like both of these games, this is the first matchup where I don't feel, like, super strongly about either game. Like, I really like them both, but I would take basically every game, except for, like, New Leaf, that we've progressed so far over either of them. I think, you know, I'm just kind of more into like 3D platformers than I am into racing. You know, F-Zero is awesome, especially GX, but you know, Kirby in the Forgotten Land it's a fun time. You know, it's a pretty well-refined 3D platformer. So I think just for my taste, that's what I would progress.
For me, it's easily F-Zero GX. It's not really a close race because I really like Forgotten Land. I think it's like one of my favorite Kirby games. But it's kind of funny. I played Planet Robobot a while ago, and that game exceeded Forgotten Land for me personally. So Robobot is my favorite Kirby game. So and F-Zero is easily the best F-Zero. F-Zero GX is easily the best one, and that game is like lightning fast. It's difficult. It's extremely difficult. The super fast paced, super high energy. I absolutely love it. The music is fantastic. The roster of characters is amazing. I love how they each have their own theme song. So for me, it's F-Zero GX, although I really like Forgotten Land.
That's totally fair.
I'm gonna give it to Forgotten Land, only because I haven't played
F-Zero.
enough of F-Zero GX. Even though I did really like what I played, the fact that it's a 3D platformer also just gives it more of an edge for me. And I really did like Kirby in the Forgotten Land when I played it. I do wish that it, I guess, took a few more interesting directions, like a bit of a more interesting direction, I guess, like Planet Robobot. Aside from the fact that, it's like the first real 3D Kirby platformer, some other elements of it did feel a little more basic. So like it took like a step forward and a bit of a step back in that regards. That'd be like my biggest complaint with the game. But I still think that it was a lot of fun. So GX is a fun game, but I'm gonna have to give it to Forgotten Land. Sorry, Hero.
So sad. I mean, it's not. Forgotten Land is incredible, so it's not. I'm not crushed.
Yeah. Okay. So this next matchup, I was looking at and I was like, oh, this is gonna be fucking easy. But the more I think about it, the more like either choice could be argued to be the incorrect one. So we have Mother 3 versus Tetris. So obviously Tetris is like one of the most popular, iconic puzzle games, or games in general, like ever made. It's like synonymous with like the 90s, games when they were like in their, not infancy, but like really starting to pick up steam. It's still played to this day by millions of people. And Mother 3 is just one of the best games ever. Fantastic RPG. I just played it for the first time earlier this year, and immediately it resonated with me. I love basically everything the game does. It's like Earthbound on crack. Even better soundtrack. It's got like the small town vibe that I really like, and it tells a really great story about like a variety of things. Talks about kind of the influence of like capitalism on small town societies and how like they're fed the lie that consumerism will make them happy and solve all their problems, and just kind of the consequences of that. And then also like it tells a really beautiful story about like familial bonds. And yeah, like I think about that game constantly. I really want to go back and just play through it again and again. So everything about it I think is just perfect. So I would give it to Mother 3 as much as Tetris is super iconic.
Yeah. I have not played Mother 3 yet, so I guess I'm going to vote for Tetris just because I know Mother 3 is going to win. Yeah, but in all seriousness, I'm like Mother 3, the things I've heard about it, it's like it takes everything Earthbound was doing and does it even better and in a different way, and it's like just one of the best RPGs ever. So Tetris has had a huge impact on the gaming industry, and it's just a massive titan of a game. Yeah, I know Mother 3 is going to win. It doesn't really matter what I vote, but
You are correct, because like, what are we doing here? It's Mother 3. It was my favorite game of all time for the longest time. It's just an amazing RPG, just an amazing game in general. I mean, its story is amazing. It's just one of those games where I have yet to, of all the people I've recommended it to, I have yet to have one of those people like play it and say that it's anything less than one of the greatest games they've ever played. So it's got to be Mother 3.
Yeah. This one, I am going to be pissed if it doesn't go to like, the semifinals.
well, yeah.
You
I'm
and
sure
me
it will. I'm
Yeah.
outnumbered.
Okay, Hero, I'm really curious which way you're going to go on this one. We got
Wii Sports Resort.
We got Donkey Kong Bonanza versus Wii Sports Resort. So I think we've already kind of settled it because I haven't made this known publicly yet, but I'm not a big Donkey Kong Bonanza guy, to be honest with you. It's kind of a like variety of things for me. Like it feels like a worse version of other games I've played before. And the new things it does, like the digging and kind of the way it recontextualizes the main collectible, just don't really do it for me. Wii Sports Resort, on the other hand, is a game that I played a lot as a kid, and I still go back to it and have a good time these days. So I have a lot of fuzzy nostalgic memories of this game. So it's going to be Wii Sports Resort for me, I'm sorry to say.
And for me, it's Wii Sports Resort as well. Although it's actually kind of close because I really like Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think it evolves and changes what Mario Odyssey was doing in really interesting ways. I think it's like a fantastic 3D platformer that doesn't feel like anything else. And I love the collectathon elements. I love the way Donkey Kong feels. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza is truly a fantastic game and easily my favorite game on the Switch so far. But Wii Sports Resort, I mean, that game is like, it was defined my childhood. There's this infectious positive energy on Woohoo Island with all the sports and the motion controls. I think it's the best use of motion controls ever. They're with the Wii Motion Plus that actually works and it's super close. It's 1-to-1. And there's so many great sports. There's 12 sports. The series has gone downhill ever since this peak. I think it's a fantastic game and I love playing it. It's like the most replayable game for me probably ever. So yeah, for me, it's Wii Sports Resort, 100%.
I love that we directly contradicted each other with our Donkey Kong Bonanza bits. That's hilarious.
But yeah, we still agree somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter what I say now, but just to throw Bonanza a bone, even though Hero likes it a lot, I do like Wii Sports Resort a lot, but I think personally I would choose Bonanza over the two. It's a fun game to me, no matter how I look at it, but it's definitely a lot better when I view it more as just like a general action game, because when I was starting it off and was just kind of judging it, like expecting it to be like another 3D Mario type game, just 3D platformer in general, it wasn't exactly, meeting my expectations in that regard. But once I just sort of accepted it for like kind of like the mindless, just break all the terrain and just collect all the goodies and just this constant stream of dopamine just that the game delivers, I was definitely a lot more happy with the end product of Bonanza, even though I also have still other issues with it where like the bosses are just complete pushovers until like the last 3/4 of the game, I want to say, where they ramp things up a little more. But I still really enjoyed my time with Bonanza, and while I think Wii Sports Resort again is really fun, like a 3D action game will just win over for me any day of the week if it's good enough, and I think Bonanza is definitely good enough, and that ending is absolute cinema. So
yeah, you're not wrong there. Okay, Wii Sports Resort moves on. So now we have two GBA RPGs. We have Golden Sun: The Lost Age versus Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. So this is another one, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, where I have not fully played it. I did play a little bit of it, just in preparation, and I was super impressed with this game, to be honest with you. I really want to go back and, play through the whole series because I am sadly unacquainted with it. But immediately, like, the soundtrack jumped out to me. It was awesome. The sprite work, the combat is pretty simple from what I played, but like just the visuals from like when you're in combat just like blew my mind. Definitely one of the best looking games I've seen on the GBA. Just unfortunately not as acquainted with it as I want to be. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga I also just played for the first time earlier this year, and it's a great game. Like, I could definitely see Golden Sun dethroning it for me if I had finished that game, but I kind of just have to default to Superstar Saga because it's just a fun time. Not much more for me to say really beyond that.
Yeah, so I've played a few hours of Superstar Saga, but I haven't beaten it. I didn't make it very far. Not because I wasn't enjoying it. I just, got busy playing other stuff. And I haven't played The Lost Age at all, but I have played a little bit of Golden Sun, the first one. So I really don't have super strong opinions either way here. I think Mario and Luigi might have the edge just because of its timing-based, turn-based combat. I think the way you click the buttons to the movements of the attacks is super fun and never gets old. But in some ways, the atmosphere of Golden Sun, the fantasy elements, and like you said, the way the camera moves in battle is super impressive. And I think there's a world where if I had like just like you, where if I'd actually played through all of these games, I think maybe I would like Golden Sun more. But just off of what I've played of the two, I think Superstar Saga is probably my vote here, just because I know it's kind of seen as one of the best in the series, and again, just like the actual moment-to-moment gameplay of the combat, I'd say Mario and Luigi is probably my pick.
Yeah, I haven't touched any Golden Sun games, so for me, it's just Superstar Saga by default. Um, I do want to go back and play Golden Sun, but I honestly am not really familiar with the series at all, apart from the fact that, see, I don't even know the main character's name, Isaac.
Yeah.
He's an assist trophy in Smash Bros. That's all I know, basically. But even then, I really like Superstar Saga. It's a really cute Mario RPG. And it has the advantage compared to like the later Mario and Luigi games where it's like pretty short, you know. There isn't a lot of downtime or padding compared to some of the later entries. Not super incessant on the tutorials. And it's just like a really charming RPG. And I like its gameplay, its reaction-based gameplay. I like the bros attacks, probably the best in the series, honestly. So yeah, Superstar Saga.
Yeah, that's another great point about this one that I was like, probably the most impressive part of it for me when I played was just like, despite it being an RPG, which is like a much more like inherently slower genre, like it's designed just like a Mario platformer where you're constantly moving from like idea to idea and just experiencing a bunch of new stuff all the time, which, you know, it's awesome. So I think it's a deserved win here. Okay, so next we have Zelda Link's Awakening versus Donkey Kong Country 1. Fuck, this is gonna be tough. I think I know where I'm leaning, but I'm not happy to say it. Link's Awakening is my favorite 2D Zelda. So, you know, off the bat, I already love Zelda. It's like up there as one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. Donkey Kong Country 1 is probably my third favorite in the series. Definitely feel a lot more strongly for Tropical Freeze and 2, but you know, it's still a great time, and it's one I revisit regularly. But Link's Awakening, I find myself thinking about all the time and wanting to replay. You know, it has probably one of the best stories in the Zelda franchise. It's pretty astonishing what they managed to pull off on, what was it, like the fucking Game Boy? You know, just the amount of new ideas that they brought to the Zelda formula with this one, I think makes it, you know, worthy of moving on.
Yeah, I pretty much agree exactly. Donkey Kong Country is a phenomenal game, but it has the disadvantage of being followed up by games that were even better. Just immediately after is DKC2, which is kind of outshines it in a lot of areas, and then eventually later on Tropical Freeze took it to even further heights, depending on who you ask. So I think for me it's probably Link's Awakening, because Link's Awakening is so impressive to me because of how early it is in the Zelda series, and the fact that it's as unique as it is and it still stands out when compared to everything else. And again, like you said, the story, the ending of that game just completely recontextualizes everything, and it's also really replayable. I like replaying it and noticing new details. And yeah, what they were able to pull off with the hardware is fantastic, and it's just such an inventive setting and structure for the story. And I think the dungeons are all really solid, the items are great, and I guess in general I just kind of prefer Zelda's gameplay style a little bit more than Donkey Kong Country, as great as Donkey Kong Country is. So this one is close, but I think I'll have to go Link's Awakening as well.
This one is so tough for me because Donkey Kong Country 1 is literally the first game I ever played. So I can safely say that I would not be here if it weren't for Donkey Kong Country 1. And to this day, it's like one of my comfort games that I can just pick up at any time. Whenever I like just want to wind down and have nothing else to play, I can always boot up DKC1 and have a good time. Link's Awakening, when I first played it, I thought it was good, but I definitely wouldn't have said that it was one of my favorite Zelda games. Even thinking that like A Link to the Past was better, where nowadays like my opinion has definitely become a lot more positive and warm towards the game, where it's definitely better than A Link to the Past, I'll say that much. And I've just grown to appreciate the story a lot more in Link's Awakening, and again, it's very impressive for the hardware. The dungeons are really fun, especially the later ones. As much as it pains me to not give it to DKC1, I have to give it to Link's Awakening. That game is just so good.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, some of the best dungeons in the series. So happy that game gets to move on. Okay, so now we got kind of a weird matchup. There are like DLCs on this list, but I didn't go too crazy with them. I think if I remember correctly, there were only like 2 or 3. So we have Kirby Superstar versus Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. This would not be here if it weren't like one of the highest rated games Nintendo's ever made, technically. So I would have to give it to Xenoblade 3, to be honest with you. I really like that DLC. It's just like a condensed, version of Xenoblade 3 with all of its strengths still intact and even some of its new ideas kind of thrown in there. Like a much more refined combat system than the base game, and a really great story that, without getting into spoilers too much, like ties all the entries in the series together really nicely, and offers a great bit of fan service. Yeah, Kirby Superstar is a good time. It's just against an RPG, it's climbing an uphill battle for me.
Yeah, for me it's kind of just defaults to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because I haven't played Kirby Superstar. But even if I had, I think it would probably still be Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because I love Kirby games. 2D Kirby games are a ton of fun. But I really, really liked Future Redeemed, and I don't know if you guys will agree with this. It's kind of a hot take, but I think I liked Future Redeemed more than the base game. I think not Noah, what's his name?
Matthew.
Yeah, I like him more than Noah and Mio as a protagonist.
Wow.
And I found the story more interesting, and the pacing was better. Kind of the game moved faster, and I guess Xenoblade 3 by the end I was kind of feeling the length of it. So when I played Future Redeemed and it was a lot shorter and more concise, I really enjoyed that, and I thought it kind of like took a lot of the best aspects of Xenoblade 3 and put it into one final send-off, or maybe final depending on what happens in the future for the Xenoblade Chronicles series. So yeah, for me it'll be Future Redeemed.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I think this is like a bit of a hot take. I don't get Superstar, honestly. I know a lot of people love that game, but I just don't find it set up particularly captivating, where it's like basically just separated into like all these little bite-sized modes and such. And I know that there's a lot like to some of the modes, but it's just, the gameplay is solid, it's fine, but like as a whole package, Superstar has just never really been my kind of thing. And Xenoblade 3 is Xenoblade, so, well, like Future Redeemed, it's Xenoblade, so like that's, again, like how Kohana said, it's like when you go up against an RPG, and especially a Xenoblade game, it's definitely like an uphill battle. And I really loved Future Redeemed. You got my boy Rex, the absolute Chad, absolute unit Rex. And I adore the fan service. I know that like some people have, I guess, soured over Future Redeemed's like overuse of fan service. But I'm all for that shit, man. And I loved Future Redeemed so much. So that's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the one to say it, regarding what you said about Kirby Superstar, but I'm with you. Okay, so now to cap off this side of the bracket, shit, we're in for the long haul with this one, fellas. We have Wii Sports base game versus Mario Kart World. I played a lot of Wii Sports growing up. It was basically my introduction to video games. I was one of those people that, got roped in with the motion controls and had my family, playing with me and stuff when I was younger. So I owe a lot to that game, but Mario Kart World is hands down my favorite Mario Kart game. It's so fun to time trial, master the tracks and all the tricks you can do, pull off shortcuts. I really do love kind of the open world structure of the game where you're taking all these intermission tracks between each race. I'm still not sick of them. I have a blast on the intermissions, and, Knockout Tour is awesome. I think when I go back to that game these days, I'm pretty much only playing Knockout Tour, or maybe I'm doing a time trial. So, yeah, it's Mario Kart World for me.
Oh, this is a tough one. Depending on the day, I could go either way here, because like obviously Wii Sports is kind of like, a tech demo. There's only a few sports. It really comes down to replayability with that one. But the way I'm kind of thinking of this is like as a launch title for a new system. And I think in that context, I would probably give it to Wii Sports because I think it's more easily accessible for newcomers. I mean, Wii Sports just launched so many people into gaming for the first time. I'm the same way, where Wii Sports is how I got into gaming for the first time. And it's also one of the only games that I've played with some of my family members who don't like to play games. Wii Sports was able to draw them in a way that I don't think Mario Kart World really has been able to. But as a game, I think Mario Kart World is obviously more solid. There's a lot more to do with all the tracks and the insane amount of music, amazing music remixes in that game. And the movement is so much more interesting than it's ever been in the series. The huge character roster. And obviously the game has a few problems that people have been really mad about recently, but oh man, yeah, this is a tough one. I honestly don't even know. which one I would go for. I might hand it off to Pedro to put his vote in because it might not matter. So
Well, then I'll just settle it right here and then, not keep you guys in suspense. I'll give it to Mario Kart World because Wii Sports is great. You know, it can't be denied how pivotal it was to the Wii's success and just bringing in like a completely new audience to playing video games in general. But I mean, Mario Kart World, it's again like how Kohana said, it's my favorite Mario Kart game as well. It's Mario Kart with 3D platformer-esque movement. What else is there to say? Like that's just that's why I love the game so much. Doing time trials and even just regular races, they're just, you know, every time I play through a track, I play it in a completely different way and try out different routes, or like I'll go on this wall this time, or I'll grind on this rail that time. And same goes for the intermission tracks. I just love how dynamic the gameplay in Mario Kart World is, and like the open world free roam. I personally really like just how unadulterated it is. Like, it just lets you quite simply free roam without necessarily having to worry about completing a checklist, which I know that a lot of people want that checklist to like actually feel motivated to play through the free roam and explore the world. But I found myself just loving to like jump in and just drive around for like 20 to 30 minutes every day and just listening to the music, doing a P-Switch challenge every now and then. I really like Mario Kart World a lot, so I'm going to give it to that.
All right. Anything you want to like kind of add now, Hero? It's interesting you thought about them as like launch titles against each other. I didn't even consider that when I was like, you know, looking at the bracket initially.
yeah, I still can't really decide. I mean, I guess I'll throw my vote to Wii Sports just as a last ditch effort, even though, you know, but honestly, I would probably give it to Mario Kart World as well. As much as I love Wii Sports, I think it's probably just the better game. But there is, you know, ask me tomorrow and I'll probably say Wii Sports. So I'm pretty 50-50 split on that one.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're done with the left side here for the first round. Now we get to do that all over again on the right side. Okay, so now we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe versus Zelda The Wind Waker. So kind of like what I said with F-Zero, like, you know, a racing game against like an adventure game, especially a Zelda game, is, you know, going to have a tough time. Wind Waker is a great Zelda game. As much as I've kind of made my branding centered around that game, it's actually not even really close to my favorite Zeldas, but I do like it a lot. It's a pretty easy call for me to give it to the Wind Waker there. As you know, as big as and fun as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is, Wind Waker is just super captivating, memorable. It's just a fun time every time I boot it up.
Yeah, I think Mario Kart 8, I mean, the fact that it stuck around for as long as it did, and I still never really got sick of it. I mean, we all kind of got sick of it eventually, but it's such a solid racing game that it lasted so long, and the added DLC later on that kept it alive, even though it was kind of questionable quality at times. Like, in the soundtrack, Mario Kart 8's soundtrack is one of the best Nintendo's ever made. But then it goes up against the Wind Waker, which the vibes of the Wind Waker are just incredible. I love Wind Waker so much. It's one of my favorite 3D Zelda games. So, yeah, it kind of just comes down to those different genres, like you said, where I'd probably take an action-adventure game over a racing game, as much as I think Mario Kart 8 is incredible. And in some ways, I still think it might be the best Mario Kart game, but other times I feel like World might be. But at the end of the day, I think it's Wind Waker for me, just because the sense of adventure, I kind of am obsessed with the aesthetic of that game, the sailing on the sea with the wind in your sails, and the vibes of the music, and going to all the different islands and everything, and what they pulled off on the GameCube. It feels like this massive world in scope. Yeah, so for me, it's Wind Waker.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be Wind Waker for me. Mario Kart 8, I have so many hours in Mario Kart 8, like across the freaking 11 years that it was the only Mario Kart game that I was basically playing. And the amount of content that it eventually added is just absolutely, it's mind-blowing. And it's definitely like the peak of the, I guess what you would call now the old Mario Kart formula. But Wind Waker is absolutely phenomenal. It wasn't the first Zelda game I played, but it was the one that definitely, at the time that I first played it, immersed me the most. Like I have so many memories of having my notebook, and I would literally draw out a map of the Great Sea and jot down, like, there'd be like a point of interest on an island that I couldn't do anything about yet, but just to like keep in mind for when I do get like an item and I could return to it. And I love its art style. I really like its combat. Um, the dungeons aren't as quite as good as some of the later entries, but everything else about that game I absolutely love, and I love the sailing and just how therapeutic it is, and the story about like how it ties back to like the history of Hyrule. I really like how they handled all that. I'm gonna give it to Wind Waker.
Sweet.
Absolutely lovely game.
I was a little nervous going into that one, not gonna lie. Okay, I am nervous for this one.
This is
probably
this
shouldn't
is a
be actually,
mean
but
matchup.
yeah. So we have Super Metroid versus Splatoon 2. I'm not a big Splatoon guy personally. Like I have fun playing the games. It's just not something I like, find myself coming back to again and again. It's kind of like I have to be in a really specific mood to want to play Splatoon. I haven't touched 2 since 3 came out, and I haven't played 3 in quite a while. Super Metroid, on the other hand, that's like up there. It's one of my all-time favorite Nintendo games. The conventions that this game established and the shockwaves it sent throughout the industry are just amazing. I love basically everything it does, and again, it's one of those cases where it's super impressive what they are able to pull off in 1994, I want to say, on the Super Nintendo. And you can still like see this game's DNA in all kinds of games throughout the industry, not even Nintendo developed. So it's pretty easy for me. I'm gonna hand it to Super Metroid.
This one is definitely not easy for me. This is already torturing me just thinking about it. Because again, it kind of what I mentioned earlier is kind of like the two different parts of my brain. Super Metroid is this incredible single player experience, kind of defined what a Metroidvania is and set up so much of that formula. And I think zoomed out, Super Metroid is the correct choice there with asterisks, quotation marks, whatever. But I think for me, I would actually choose Splatoon 2. And I know that that is crazy and that Super Metroid is the better game in like most ways, but I've put so many hours into Splatoon 2. It was just this game when I got my Switch, I just dived into it and it was almost like a daily thing. I would turn on Splatoon 2, go to Inkopolis, play a few matches. I love the single player element, which I know a lot of people don't. I think the single player element is fantastic. I loved replaying the levels with the different weapons, even though I know that's also controversial. Splatoon 2 is the peak of the series for me, and I am a huge Splatoon fan. It's one of my favorite Nintendo series. I think I'll vote Splatoon 2, even though I know Super Metroid is in a lot of ways the better game. I'm going to go Splatoon 2.
Splatoon 2 stood no chance.
Yeah, that's
put it up against Super Metroid for me. Even though Splatoon 2 was the Splatoon game that I also put the most time into, I did like that game, and it was definitely like a much needed different kind of game, like change of pace, like around the Switch 2's launch year for me, when I mainly just had like single player games for it. Splatoon 2 was like a good game to hop into like for like an hour a day or so. But Super Metroid is it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's my favorite Metroid game of all time. What I consider to be my favorite series of all time. So yeah, all of that combined is just, I absolutely love Super Metroid. I love speedrunning it. I love its atmosphere. I love its world design. It's still like the only Metroid game to get the 100% cleanup right in my eyes, where you can basically plot a very efficient route where with like minimal backtracking in terms of like getting all the items. And it's my preferred way to play the game. I'm gonna stop myself because I can glaze Super Metroid all day, honestly, if you let me. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, go watch his video for more.
No, don't. It's really old.
So we just spent some time glazing Kirby Planet Robobot. Do you want to, like hold on to those statements in the face of what we have here?
If it was up against a different game, maybe, but Breath of the Wild is probably my single favorite game of all time. The game I've played put the most hours into by far of any game ever. I played it at the perfect time in my life. It just rocked my world and changed the way I even look at video games. I absolutely love Breath of the Wild. I think it does have flaws, but it reaches so far beyond those. It's incredible. It's relaxing and contemplative. I adore it. So for me, it's Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. It's one of my favorite games ever made. It's probably my pick for Nintendo's best game ever. I love everything it does. I think, it breathed new life into open world, game design, and I think like it has a better story than people give it credit for. A lot of the appeal for me is kind of in the subtext. You're exploring this post-apocalyptic world that's just been ravaged by evil and monsters, and in spite of all that, you see community, you see people building out like new towns and just living on. And I think that's a really powerful message, and it's a really fun game. There's a ton to see throughout the world, all kinds of surprises waiting for you. And I remember the first time I saw like one of the dragons flying around. That was like one of the most special memories I've ever had with a game. So yeah, it's Breath of the Wild for me.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild basically did a similar sort of thing that Ocarina of Time did when it came out. So it's got to be Breath of the Wild. I think it's an absolutely amazing game. You could argue if like this is what Zelda, I guess, quote unquote, needed. Well, you can argue that all day. Like I welcome the changes that it did bring to the series. And like Kohana said, like I think its story doesn't get enough credit. And I particularly really like how its themes about legacy, like pretty much like in a meta sort of way, tie into like the actual legacy of the Zelda series, and like it just has like that connection to it that I really think is clever, and it just makes me love the story all the more. You guys pretty much said everything else that I would have wanted to say about Breath of the Wild. So
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah, I
even
do also
talk
want
about.
to.
Oh, go ahead.
I do want to give Planet Robobot its flowers a little bit because that is an incredible 2D platformer that's super inventive. Every level is a standout. I love the Robobot aesthetic throughout the entire world. The boss fights are really great. I think Planet Robobot is Kirby refined to near perfection. I think that game is terrific. So it's an unfortunate matchup for Planet Robobot, but yeah.
Yeah, I
it
have
really
not
is.
finished Kirby Planet Robobot. I did play a little bit of it just the other day, actually. And I was like, okay, I'm not a big like 2D Kirby guy. We'll see what all the hype is about. And then I get to the first level where you get like one of the mechs, and I was like, holy shit, this game is fucking awesome. I need to go back
Yeah.
and like actually, finish it because I'm sure I'd have a blast.
And yeah, and same here because I also have not. I have played. I want to say maybe half of Planet Robobot, but I never finished it. But it is amazing. But then when you go against Breath of the Wild, it's like Breath of the Wild was
Yeah,
always going to win.
yeah. Unfortunate, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. So now we have Super Smash Bros. Melee versus Banjo Kazooie. So I'm gonna keep my portion here real simple. I suck ass at Super Smash Bros. Melee. I suck ass at Super Smash Bros. In general, and I'm gonna give it to Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Ah, man. I've only played a few matches of Melee, and I have actually beaten Banjo Kazooie, and I really like that game. I think it's a super fun 3D platformer. But just the scale of Melee and the impact that it's had, I mean, it just kind of has to be Melee. As much as I really love Banjo, and I guess in some ways my vote should default to Banjo since I've put way more time into it, but Melee is Melee, so that's where my vote goes.
If you ever hear me one day pick Banjo freaking Kazooie over Melee, then you know that I'm dead and you're talking to an imposter because I fucking love Smash Brothers Melee. I mean, it's Melee. It was my first Smash game, but also just I love the competitive scene of Melee and just how deep the mechanics are, and just it's Melee again, kind of just short and sweet. And I completely respect what Kohana said about like you can suck ass at Melee and still think it's a good time.
No, I don't like playing that game, especially against you. I wanted to slight Banjo Kazooie. Sorry, not sorry, Banjo fans. 3-0 sweep. Okay, Super Mario Bros. 3 versus Luigi's Mansion 1. Obviously, Super Mario Bros. 3 has a lot of fans, but I grew up in the 2000s, so I didn't play it until much later on. I did play Luigi's Mansion, and it's a game I find myself coming back to very regularly and having a grand time. Super Mario Bros. 3 is like as good of a game as it is, especially for its time. It's just a part of that era of 2D Mario that I just don't really feel strongly about, unfortunately. So my vote is Luigi's Mansion.
Super Mario Bros. 3 it's like super impressive what they pulled off on the NES. Like if you look at the original Super Mario Bros. Versus Super Mario Bros. 3, you would think there's a console generation leap there. I think that game is phenomenal, and the problem is that there's so many great 2D Mario games where with Luigi's Mansion, there's not really another game like it because 2 and 3 are also great games, but they don't capture the same energy that the original did. So in some ways, I think Super Mario Bros. 3 is a better game, better designed, and it's in some ways, but Luigi's Mansion, because it's so unique and I love how short it is and it's like just this wildly new direction for Luigi, putting him in the spotlight. Yeah, I think for me it's Luigi's Mansion, although I recognize how great and important Super Mario Bros. 3 is.
Only one of these games has a Mario callout matched to the A button, so I think we know what the clear winner is here.
True.
No, but in all seriousness, I think Mario 3 is really great. And like Hero said, it's incredibly impressive for the NES. There are times where like I forget it was even on the NES because I grew up with the GBA version. And the fact that they were able to pull off like what that game does on that hardware and have that many levels and that many worlds and just be such like a complete package for its time is really remarkable. But Luigi's Mansion is just so fun. It's incredibly replayable. I love the portrait ghosts, the idea and like how it was executed a lot, and exploring the mansion and just slowly progressing through the areas. And it has that hanging Luigi glitch. So yeah, it's Luigi's Mansion for me.
Yeah. It'd be hilarious if we were like 15 years older because this bracket would look totally different.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, versus Super Mario Galaxy 2, Mario sequels. I'm not super familiar with Mario World 2. I have played it, I've just never beaten it. Super Mario Galaxy 2, I've beaten dozens of times over. Every time I go back to it, I like do a 200% run where you get like, you know, the perfect run and all that. I absolutely love that game, even though I have problems with it. It's definitely like one of the most nostalgic games for me. Whenever I like get really drunk and I'm at home, I'm like, let's boot up Super Mario Galaxy 2. That's just like, it's a game I default to a lot of times. It's weird, but I absolutely love it. I think even nowadays where I'm pretty like confident in my opinions on Galaxy 1 versus 2 and like what I think their strengths are when compared to each other, you could probably catch me saying 2 is better than 1 sometimes. So, you know, just for exposure and like how much I adore the game, Galaxy 2 takes it for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty biased here because I've only played about half of Yoshi's Island, so and I love Mario Galaxy 2. I'm one of those people who prefers the original, but Galaxy 2 is still incredible. The level design and the energy, it feels a lot more high energy and colorful and positive and exciting, and Yoshi's so great. Funnily enough, Yoshi is like the best part of both of these games. So but yeah, Yoshi's Island is fantastic as well. I love the art style. I love the storybook aesthetic. Mario crying is kind of annoying, but you know, that's okay. Super Mario Galaxy 2 though, that's where I gotta put it. Just fantastic 3D platformer that takes what Galaxy 1 did and puts so many new creative ideas into it. So that's my vote.
Yeah, I will never say that Yoshi's Island isn't good, but I've heard some people say that it's the best 2D platformer like of all time, and I don't see it when I look at it that way. Although I still think that it's really good. While Mario Galaxy 2 is just one of the best platformers in general, if you ask me. You know, and it de-emphasized the story compared to 1, which is why a lot of people prefer 1 more. And just the fact that, you know, they're so similar and Galaxy 1 did it first, the whole, you know, space odyssey theme of the game. Galaxy 2, like just on a gameplay front, is just so fun. And the level design is just, in my opinion, a step up from the first game. Even though it may not be like as thematically resonant and cohesive as Galaxy 1, I still think, you know, well, compared to Yoshi's Island, at least, like in the context of this round, I have to give it to Galaxy 2. It's a great game.
All right. There we have it. 3-0. We're just like in total agreement so far for the most part on this side. Okay, this one is going to be tough. We have Zelda Twilight Princess versus Metroid Prime. I really love Metroid Prime. It's one of the best Metroid games. I like its sequel more. Twilight Princess is, I think, like a wholly unique Zelda game. I love its like grittier aesthetic. It's more complex dungeons. They really tried to, you know, just lean into like the scale of the world when compared to Wind Waker, in my opinion. It feels like, when you think of Zelda, like you just think of Twilight Princess, you know, at least for me. It feels like the definitive classic Zelda game. And that's not to say Metroid Prime is bad, you know, I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite games. I think I just prefer Twilight Princess a little bit more.
I'll let Pedro go first because I have to think about this one.
This is probably the hardest one for me too so far. I mean, I think I'm in agreement where like I feel like in many ways Twilight Princess is like the definitive Zelda experience. And I love its darker themes and aesthetic. And I still think that the dungeons are the best in the series. They're primarily like the reason why I get the urge to go back to play that game as well. And Metroid Prime, it was my first Metroid game. It was really what got me into the Metroid series. And gosh, this is tough.
Yeah.
I think Metroid Prime I like more like in terms of like it's definitely a lot more replayable. I'll give it that. I go back to Metroid Prime all the time. I love its atmosphere. I love its world design, even though the backtracking can get a little excessive at points. I don't think I mind it as much as other people do. I think I'm gonna have to give the edge to Twilight Princess. As much like, if you asked me tomorrow, I'd probably say Metroid Prime, but Twilight Princess is just, it's like the definition of fantasy adventure. It's just so good. I love Twilight Princess.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is that you know, if these games weren't like going up against each other right now, they could probably solo like half the list, either one of them.
Yeah, because I feel like Metroid Prime being knocked out in the first round is just like a crime.
Yeah,
But
It feels wrong.
like, yeah, but like zoomed out, I just like in general prefer Zelda over Metroid, but just this tiniest bit. So like when it comes down to the actual gameplay, I just resonate with Twilight Princess a little bit more than Metroid Prime, I think. And I think Twilight Princess does a lot of really interesting, like I always just think of that set piece on the bridge. That's just like phenomenal. And I love the combat in that game, the way you can get more moves over the course of the game. But then with Prime is a like fantastic game that again could like beat so many of these other games on the list. So I actually am gonna agree with Twilight Princess as well, but it is so close. It's painful.
yeah, it really hurts to have to eliminate it in the first round, but you know, someone's got to lose, unfortunately. So now
Since
we
it won't
have.
matter in the end, I'm just gonna switch my vote to Metroid Prime. Just
All right,
'cause.
fair enough. I can't fault you there. Okay, so now we have Xenoblade Chronicles versus Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is the Pedro
Oh
round.
boy, another tough one.
Shit.
So I'll start it off. I'm gonna confidently say Xenoblade Chronicles. You know, not a Smash aficionado over here. I'm not very good at any of the games. I love Xenoblade. Great story. You know, great music. It was this game in particular. I think was like what really opened my eyes to the potential within RPGs, kind of as like a gameplay genre. I think this was the game that kind of made me more comfortable with like RPG tropes that I'd been a little weary of in the past. You know, it was this game that led me to playing 2 and 3 and then so many other RPGs across like a bunch of other, you know, studios and platforms. Those have went on to be like some of my favorite games ever. So I owe a lot to this game, and you know, it's certainly very high quality. So that's my vote.
Yeah, I have a similar experience with Xenoblade Chronicles because before I played it, I was kind of one of those Nintendo fans who every time a JRPG came on during a direct, it's like, oh boy, another one of these. And then I bought Xenoblade Chronicles kind of on a whim just to see if I liked it. And it just like sucked me in a way that very few games ever have. Like I was just in that world for like a month, just playing it nonstop, and I just loved it. The imagination of the world design, the music, the characters. It was just like truly one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's a fantastic RPG, and just like you, it opened the door for me playing so many other RPGs in the future, and that this is the game that kind of started me branching out in that way. But Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I mean, that is just like probably my pick for my favorite fighting game of all time, as someone who's not played that many. And the character roster is absolutely insane. It's like every fighter you would ever want, and all the added DLC fighters just took it even farther. It's fast, it's snappy. If only the online worked, it would be perfect. But yeah, I think Xenoblade Chronicles wins, but for me, but just by like a tiny bit. Very close. Oh, bad stuff.
2 rounds in a row where like if either of these games were like pitted against something else, like they would win by default, but being pitted against each other is just, I mean, I have to give it to Xenoblade. Like Xenoblade is probably my favorite game of all time. To say like how much of an impact Xenoblade 1 left on me. When my first playthrough was the freaking 3DS version, is a testament to how amazing Xenoblade 1 is. And while nowadays I think that like certain elements were handled better in like some of the future games, like particularly the combat that always springs to mind. I still really like the combat in Xenoblade 1, but just nothing has yet to top like the experience of playing Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time. And it still to this day has one of my favorite stories and one of my favorite fictional worlds in all of media in general. And then I mean, Smash Bros. Ultimate is just such an achievement and such a feat in just the wider scope of the gaming landscape in general. And it pains me to have to eliminate it in the first round just because of how much of a love letter and passion project it is to just all of gaming, and how like Sakurai just really outdid himself with this one. I can't not give it to Xenoblade. So
Yeah.
that'll be the one that has to move forward. Sorry, Ultimate.
I mean, it's losing to one of the greatest games ever made, so not much you can do there.
Yeah.
So now we have Metroid Dread versus Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. So weirdly, I'm not a big fan of Bowser's Inside Story. I played a good chunk of it when I was younger, and then I tried to revisit it a while back, and I've just never finished it. I don't know what it is really about the game, but it didn't grab me the same way that Superstar Saga did. Now, Metroid Dread is, I think, probably like the perfect modernization of 2D Metroid. It's like scary, it's fast-paced, it's action-packed, like it's everything I could ever want out of a Metroid game in the modern era. I definitely am due for a replay of it. I love like sequence breaking, all the intentional skips you can do in the game just make it so replayable. You know, I still have so much to learn about the game as far as like, you know, things that were put in intentionally and, you know, unintentional things that people have discovered. So I think it's like a perfect kind of follow-up to Super Metroid for the modern era. So it's a no-brainer for me. It's Metroid Dread.
Yep, I'm in agreement there. I haven't played Bowser's Inside Story, so I can't really speak to that game's strengths. But yeah, Metroid Dread is an incredible bringing 2D Metroid into the modern era, and it feels like Metroid never left. You know, like they've been keeping up with all the great Metroidvanias that have been made in its absence. Yeah, just a terrific game. I do think, just to balance it out a little bit, I do think there could be some more exploration in that game. It's pretty like linear, especially when compared to Super Metroid. You never, at least for me, I never really had to like explore and find out where to go next. It kind of just, you know, but that could also be, you could also argue that the game is guiding you in the right direction in really intuitive ways, and that's probably a good thing. So yeah, Metroid Dread is incredible. The final boss just like took the whole experience to another level for me. I think that's one of the best final bosses in Nintendo history. So yeah, I'm voting Metroid Dread as well.
I think it's gonna be another unanimous vote because
All right.
I gotta go to Metroid Dread. I am still amazed that, like, you know, given Dread's history of just being this game that was stuck in like redevelopment hell, it just how it was originally supposed to be a DS game, and then they shelved it for a while, and just we all thought that it was dead and it was never coming out, and then that E3 reveal of Metroid 5, and then ends up being Metroid Dread when the title drop came out. And then when it actually came out, and it ended up being amazing and like the best Metroid game in a long time, even rivaling, I'd say, like, I still think it's the second best 2D Metroid right next to Super Metroid. It's awesome, and I love that game to bits. And Bowser's Inside Story is really good too. But, you know, I think back on that game, and there are times when I want to go back and replay it, and then I remember, but I have to get through this set piece that like wasn't as good. Or like, oh, this section was like, I remember being kind of boring, or this mini game was a little annoying. But I still have a lot of good memories of Bowser's Inside Story. No way in hell is Metroid Dread not going forward in my book.
Hell yeah. Fetishists be damned. Metroid Dread advances.
Weird. Yeah. It's a weird game.
So we have Zelda: A Link Between Worlds versus Super Mario World. Now, we've had similar matchups here where it's like a 2D Mario or 2D platformer versus like a Zelda game. And my kind of thought process isn't changing a whole lot. Link Between Worlds is my second favorite 2D Zelda behind Link's Awakening. Super Mario World, it's a fun time.
All right.
Okay.
That makes sense. I probably agree with that pretty much. It's again one of those things where it's like, do you try to consider the historical impact of a game versus like your personal taste? because for me, I like a Link Between Worlds better. I think that's like one of my favorite Zelda games. Full stop. I love that game. I think it's a fantastic way of bringing old Zelda and freshening it up with allowing you to do the dungeons in any order and the item rentals. I think the art style is incredible. I wish there would have been more games in that art style aside from Triforce Heroes. Yeah, I'd say A Link Between Worlds, but in terms of like impact on the gaming industry and just overall like weight to it, Super Mario World is just like this giant. It's probably, I think, the best 2D Mario game still to this day and hasn't been topped. I think I'll give it to A Link Between Worlds, but that's a really close one just because of how massive and important Super Mario World is.
Yeah, this one's tough because I'm in a similar boat. I think that if we're talking about again, like what this list is about like deciding what the best Nintendo game is, I think that Mario World definitely had, I guess it's more iconic, more impactful in general than A Link Between Worlds. And it is also my favorite 2D Mario game. One of my favorite Mario games in general. I love going back to it. And there was a time where, kind of like Super Metroid, there were times where I would play through the game and I would finish it and I would immediately start it back up. Like literally do like 2 playthroughs in a night. It's not that crazy. That game is really short if you know what you're doing. But A Link Between Worlds is so good, man. I love the item rental system and the dungeons especially. And it's very derivative of A Link to the Past, but like I personally think it's better than A Link to the Past. The wall merging gimmick like opens the door for like really creative and unique puzzles. And you know, its story doesn't like touch Link's Awakening in terms of like 2D Zelda games. I still like its story a lot. I thought it was really nice, like especially its ending. It's a very feel good ending. I always remember that about Link Between Worlds. Yeah, that's gonna be my vote.
All right. Sounds good. I was a little worried that Super Mario World might win that one. Okay, so now we have Zelda: A Link to the Past versus Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. So Metroid Prime 2 is my favorite Metroid game, and Metroid is one of my absolute favorite Nintendo franchises. Link to the Past is, I don't know where it would like rank among my favorite Zeldas, but I really like Link to the Past, and Zelda's also up there. So like Prime 2 is just like a much like darker, more complex, but also streamlined version of Prime 1. Fixes a lot of issues people have with that game and introduces a ton of really cool new ideas. But A Link to the Past, like, you know, there's credit where credit's due. It established a lot about kind of the Zelda formula as we came to know it. I think it also kind of established a blueprint for like adventure games broadly, where they have like kind of a Metroidvania setup where you need like an item to progress in a certain area and you have access to, you know, a lot of the world kind of off the bat. So A Link to the Past is a staggering achievement for, you know, the time it released, but I personally prefer Echoes.
This is kind of a tough one because if it comes down to personal opinion, I would probably say Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. But Link to the Past is such an influential game, and like when you look at the history of the Zelda series, where you have Zelda 1, then Zelda 2, A Link to the Past like established the formula just out of nowhere with the third game, and that formula lasted arguably all the way until Breath of the Wild, which is like incredible. And I love Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, and if I think about like the Sanctuary Fortress, then I would want to pick that game. But in terms of like the impact and the legacy, like Link to the Past, usually I would go with my own personal opinion of picking Metroid Prime, but Link to the Past is such a big, impactful thing. I know it's kind of hypocritical to not pick Mario World earlier, but I think I'm going to give it to A Link to the Past. Maybe it's just my insane Zelda bias showing right now, but I think I'm going to give it to A Link to the Past personally.
I'm going to crash out if Prime 2 doesn't advance. Don't fail me.
I'm sorry. I hate to do this. I love Prime 2. I especially love the way that it incorporates like these survival horror elements into Metroid and like the gameplay side of things with like the resource management and health management when you're in Dark Aether and like with the different beam types. Like you said, in many ways, it is like a more like refined version in terms of the structure of Prime 1 and what it's set. In many ways, it is better than the first game, in my opinion. But without A Link to the Past, we wouldn't have Ocarina of Time. And without Ocarina of Time, we wouldn't have all these other games. If it was personal opinion, it'd be Prime 2. But A Link to the Past is just... It's crazy. Like, the fact that that game came out in 1991. Like, you know, nowadays, I wouldn't call it my favorite 2D Zelda game. Like off the top of my head, it'd probably be like in the middle overall of like my top Zelda list, which is crazy. It's still a really good game. A Link to the Past is great. I think that one's gonna have to be my vote.
All right.
Sorry,
Metroid
Kohana.
Prime is eliminated from the bracket. Just fully. There's no Prime
So
3.
tragic.
Wow, that's sad.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have a pretty straightforward one, I'd imagine. Punch Out versus Super Mario Galaxy. 2009 Punch Out, I should say. It's a fun game, but it's not Super Mario Galaxy.
Yep. Yeah, I pretty much agree there. Punch Out is like so much fun. The animations and the timing and having to learn your opponents. But Mario Galaxy is just incredible. The soundtrack, the platforming, it's phenomenal. One of my favorite 3D platformers ever. So yeah, it's Galaxy.
Yeah, I agree. Like probably no surprise. I do want to add like just something about Mario Galaxy is like it's so weird to say this, I guess, because of how similar the Wii was to the GameCube. Usually when like the term next gen is thrown around, sorry, it's usually like in the context of graphics. But Mario Galaxy, I remember being like the first game that to me felt like truly next gen. Like just like the scale of that game and just going out into space and platforming, the orchestrated music and the visuals, and it's just something about Mario Galaxy just felt so advanced and futuristic, and it just immediately grabbed my attention when I saw it being played at my cousin's house for the first time. And then it turned out to be a great game in its own right. It's phenomenal. Mario Galaxy is one of the all-time greats, and Punch Out is really fun, but just it's not Mario Galaxy.
Yeah. I'm sure we're going to litigate it a little more when we talk about it compared to Link to the Past. So just leave it there for now. Okay, so now we have 2 sequel Switch expansion packs. I don't know how it ended up like this, but I'm not complaining. We have Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna, the Golden Country versus Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion. So I have never played Octo Expansion. I think I have a pretty good idea of kind of like what to expect from the gameplay just based on, my experience in Splatoon campaigns. So I think I can fairly confidently say that my vote would go to Torna even if I had played Octo Expansion. Xenoblade 2 is probably my favorite combat system in the series, and Torna just expands on it even more and tells a really great story in isolation, but also like contextualizes some elements of 2 that aren't explored too deeply. I mean, not much more really I can say. I love Torna. I think it's awesome.
Now it's my turn to crash out if Octo Expansion doesn't make it on. I haven't played Torna. I really like base Xenoblade 2, so I'm sure Torna is like a really great expansion of it. I've heard the battle theme, which is an incredible song. So that's mostly what I know of it. But Octo Expansion, I am a true Octo Expansion believer. I think it is like a top 5 Nintendo single player experience, period, for me, which I know is crazy and most sane people would disagree with that. But Octo Expansion is like just incredible. It takes Splatoon in these new directions that I didn't even know were possible at the time. And when I played it, it just like blew my mind. Its story is like this tale of a person who has to work 10,000 times harder than everyone else in the world to get to the same place that other people start out at, and working against a system that is designed against you and doesn't care about you. There's so much I feel about this game. I think it's incredible. I love the music, I love the vibes, and I kind of read into the story more than most normal people, so I love Octo Expansion, and that's where my vote goes.
Torna.
No,
Sorry.
no.
Octo Expansion is fun. Yeah, I played it once and it was a good time. But I mean, come on, it's Xenoblade.
The final set piece,
Xenoblade
though,
Chronicles
you
2
gotta think of the final set piece of Octo Expansion.
Right. The Torna has Mithra, so
Yeah.
not really.
You never seen the ending of Torna.
Yeah, dude, Torna, yeah, again, the way that Torna elevates the base game story is incredible. And it does it in a way where, like, I don't think that, like, Xenoblade 2 story was missing anything. It didn't have, like, any gaps, I would say. Like, Torna absolutely, like, finally, like, solved my answer that, like, ruined 2 story for me or anything. Like, no, it just gave more context to certain elements of 2 story that ends up, like, enhancing the base game story. And then Torna is just a great story in its own right as well. And its combat is really good too. And just, it's great. It's got to be Torna.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we move on to Super Mario Sunshine versus Tomodachi Life. I'm
gonna get outnumbered again.
I don't know. Pedro, what do you think of Tomodachi Life? I guess we just have you go for it here.
Yeah, probably be best for me to go first because it's gonna be easy for me because I've
Yeah.
never played Tomodachi Life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I understand its appeal and everything, but I've just never played it myself. So by default, it's gonna be Mario Sunshine, and really, like, I can explain why I like Mario Sunshine, but I think I might just leave that to you guys. I'd probably agree with most things. I love Mario Sunshine's jank, by the way. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
This is actually a pretty close one for me. As much I love Tomodachi Life so much, but the setting of Sunshine and the way all the locations, like it's kind of what everyone talks about with that game, but I love the way it feels like this real location, the vacation vibes, and the platforming, yeah, is kind of all over the place, but sometimes that like you said, the jank is kind of the charm, but I will say the jank sometimes goes too far and I stop having fun. And Tomodachi Life is hilarious. I don't think I've ever laughed so consistently at a game as I do with Tomodachi Life. It's incredible. I love making characters and seeing how they interact. It's the perfect game for the 3DS. You just turn it on for 20 minutes a day, see what's going on, and then check in tomorrow. Tomodachi Life definitely gets my vote here. I think it's fantastic, and I'm excited, and I hope the sequel takes things even farther because there's so much potential. I guess I shouldn't say sequel because it'll technically be the third game, as I am so constantly reminded in my comments, but yeah, for me, it's Tomodachi Life, although it is kind of close because I really like Sunshine as well.
Yeah, so I've never played Tomodachi Life, and I hate to say it, but it's not one of those games that I'm like, oh, I've never played it, but I really want to get to it. I honestly don't have much interest in it. It's not really my kind of game. Sunshine is a game that I find fascinating. It never has like a Mario platformer game or just anything like it pissed me off so much, and also given me like so much joy. There's so many weird ass design decisions in it that I just can't help but love for how stupid or obscure or janky they are. And it's a game that, despite my better judgment, I come back to all the time. And I always regret coming back to it, and yet there's something about it that just keeps me coming back. Sunshine's going to advance, and it might even go a little further than this. We'll see. So now we have Metroid Fusion versus Paper Mario N64. I'm not a big Paper Mario N64 guy, as much as I like Thousand Year Door. I know it's weird, but like Paper Mario just doesn't really do much to set itself apart from a lot of the other Mario RPGs that I've played. Unfortunately, I went into my first kind of playthrough of that game with the hindsight of others I had played, so it didn't really impress me much. But Metroid Fusion, on the other hand, is still like a completely unique game and style for its respective series, and it's one that I really like. It's much harder, it's more linear, kind of in service of the narrative it's telling. They experimented with a lot of really neat ideas in Fusion. It's definitely up there among like my favorite Metroid games.
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting one because I don't feel super strongly about either of these. I think they're both really solid games, but neither of them are like my absolute favorites. I really like Paper Mario and I really like Metroid Fusion. I think for me, I'd probably vote Metroid Fusion as well, just because I love the horror element and once you get used to the linear design, it can work. It's not as great as the more open 2D Metroid games, but it's still a lot of fun. Paper Mario, this one's pretty close for me because I really like Paper Mario and I think it sets up a lot of really great stuff, and I love the partners and I love all the different chapters and everything. Like Paper Mario is a great game. But yeah, I give it to Metroid Fusion as well, just because it's a really solid 2D Metroid game that has some really unique elements.
I really love Paper Mario 64. I can see why some people wouldn't as much nowadays, especially because of how wacky some of the later Mario RPGs get. But I think that part of the appeal of Paper Mario 64, sorry, for me, nowadays is exactly that. I think it's like the purest version of a Mario RPG there could be. It doesn't get like too crazy compared to like Thousand Year Door or Super Paper Mario. But again, I feel like that's part of the appeal for me. It's just like a really charming, simple, cute game, and that I really enjoy. But it's going up against the Metroid games, so it didn't like really stand much of a chance.
Yeah.
I say that when I eliminated Prime 2 in an earlier round and Prime 1. And Metro Fusion is a game like, for the longest time, I've always liked it, but saw as like a lesser Super Metroid, while nowadays I definitely, appreciate it more for what it is, and I like its linearity and the strengths that structure brings to the table. And I also like just like also again like its horror elements and how weak Samus is in that game, and how like the difficulty plays into the isolation of being on the BSL station.
Absolutely. Okay, so now the final matchup of the first round. Holy shit. It'll go a lot faster later. We
Oh yeah.
have Super Mario RPG Legend of Seven Stars versus Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I really like Super Mario RPG. I think, like, in my head, it's kind of the no nonsense Mario RPG that you were kind of describing Paper Mario to be, Pedro. It's like if Mario was like Final Fantasy made by Squaresoft, kind of in their heyday, which is exactly what it is. I think it's really cool kind of in that regard, but I love Xenoblade too. Come on. Like, as weird and repellent as that game can be, I love its narrative, I love its characters, I love its soundtrack, love its combat, love its world, all that stuff. It's one of my favorite games ever, in spite of all its weirdness. Unfortunately, like Super Mario RPG, doesn't really stand a chance against Xenoblade 2.
Yeah, once again, I'm gonna kind of just agree because I've only played probably 5 or 6 hours of Super Mario RPG, so I still haven't beaten that game. But yeah, Xenoblade 2 is fantastic. It has a lot of things that I don't like, but it also has a whole lot of stuff that I do. I think the environments are incredible, the music is incredible, the characters, you can kind of warm up to them over time, even though there's a lot of stuff I don't like. But yeah, Xenoblade 2, it has all the elements of a Xenoblade game that I love, and it's this massive epic adventure. And so yeah, I agree. I'd give it to Xenoblade.
It's crazy if we had done this like 8 years ago when I first played Xenoblade 2. I probably would have done Super Mario RPG. The turnaround that I've had with Xenoblade 2 is probably the widest I've had of any game, because for many reasons it was just very disappointing to me compared to the first game, which was my favorite game of all time. There were a lot of things I liked about it, definitely, but I would pick it up and drop it, pick it up and drop it, and I just could never see myself through to the end until I actually did. And I went in with like a fresher perspective, and Xenoblade 2 is in some ways even better than the first game, and it does some things better than any of the Xenoblade games. I think it's one of the greatest games ever made. I love Xenoblade 2. I know I said it earlier, but this is the real coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb matchup, honestly. Because there's no way that Mario RPG would win against Xenoblade 2 now.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Moving on to the second batch of matchups now, we have Super Mario 64 versus Ocarina of Time. Probably like the two darlings of the N64. I'm just going to say, like, as much as I respect what Super Mario 64 did and, how timeless it is and the community around it today, for me, it's Ocarina of Time just because it's more to my taste. And, I appreciate the ways it influenced the medium a little more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. For me, it's Ocarina of Time. It's not really that close. I mean, it's close kind of if I zoom out and think of the impact of both games. But I first played Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, and I didn't even really understand what a remake of an old game was at that point. I absolutely loved playing it. And Super Mario 64, I kind of had to grow to love over time, where Ocarina of Time just immediately connected with me. So yeah, for me, I have to go Ocarina of Time as well.
Well, I'll be the odd one out and say that I would go with Mario 64. That's just how much I love the movement and gameplay of Mario 64. Although Ocarina of Time is an absolutely amazing game, and if it wasn't for, I guess, more like a personal bias on my part, I would probably go with Ocarina of Time. But also Mario 64 has like its whole legacy of the rumors and myths that it has spawned. It's just also another reason why I adore everything about Mario 64. I'm not mad about Ocarina of Time advancing.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, from here forward, we can't really be mad about any of this because, these are all like
have a
absolutely
feeling-
legendary games.
I'll find a
I
way.
might get
I'll
mad about the next
just
one.
contradict
but-
All right, so now we have Animal Crossing New Leaf versus Xenoblade 3. I think I've said really all I want to say about both of these. Xenoblade 3 is it for me. It's like probably in my top 5 favorite games ever. So
Yeah, I think for me, it's New Leaf, actually. Xenoblade 3 is fantastic, but New Leaf, I absolutely adore New Leaf. They're very different games, but I think since New Leaf is my favorite Animal Crossing game and Xenoblade 3 isn't my favorite Xenoblade game, for me, I have to go New Leaf.
This is such a funny matchup. It could not be more
Yeah.
different. I have a lot of nostalgia for New Leaf, like I said earlier, but I have to give it to Xenoblade 3. It's just more my cup of tea. You know, I'd take an RPG over like a cozy life sim game. any
This one
day.
hurts. This one
Thank
hurts.
fucking
Yeah.
God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So now we have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom versus Zelda Majora's Mask. Maybe two of like the biggest black sheep in the franchise. I know where you're going, and I think we can just do it. We'll talk about it, but yeah. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom's great, but you know, as far as like direct sequels to convention-defying games, I like what Majora's Mask did a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah,
its
I agree.
darker tone and the way that it like recontextualizes specific assets in the game, like NPCs, for example, taking like some character that's not noteworthy at all in Ocarina of Time, making them like a major character, for example, in Majora's Mask. Stuff like that is really cool. And like, you know, Tears of the Kingdom, you know, certainly has its own really cool stuff going for it, but I really appreciate just like the weird kind of workarounds they came up with in Majora's Mask.
Yeah. What it comes down to for me is like Majora's Mask is Link's transported to this weird other world where everything's strange and weird and different and scary. Where in Tears of the Kingdom, it's just kind of the same world with some extra stuff thrown on top. That's kind of the biggest element of it for me because Majora's Mask, it just feels like a completely separate thing. Where with Tears of the Kingdom, it's just more of the same. Even though, of course, there's the depths underneath and the sky above, which are obviously really big and different. But one of my biggest issues with Tears of the Kingdom is that the Kingdom of Hyrule was just barely at the most important battle of all time, like 5 years ago, and now it's already back for its most important battle of all time, like again. So that kind of like takes me out of it sometimes. Where Majora's Mask, I think the setup of Termina being this totally separate thing that has its own problems that Link is kind of thrust into, and he's just trying to help, and the time loop and everything. So yeah, it's Majora's Mask.
I mean, Majora's Mask is everything that Tears of the Kingdom isn't. To me, in terms of like being a sequel that is so heavily inspired by the last game. It's Majora's Mask.
Yeah. All right. There we have it. So now, matchup of two titans of their respective franchise. Once again, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze versus Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest. I like 2 more. It's the one I replay more. It's the one I think about more. I think it has the more kind of like striking visuals, more fun level gimmicks for the most part. It's more like concise, more replayable. It's more everything. I like Donkey Kong Country 2 a lot.
I'm actually going to go Tropical Freeze here just because I like the movement of Tropical Freeze better, and I've played it more times. I like replaying that game, and I think the level design is really incredible. This is a close matchup, but for me personally, I'm going Tropical Freeze.
For as amazing as Tropical Freeze is, I agree with Kohana. I mean, DKC2 is just like if I had to pick one thing that I like would just put it over the top for me is just a better pick up and play game. I mean, than Tropical Freeze to me. It's just so much easier for me to go back to, even though they're both really good. Also, Tropical Freeze's bonus levels are dog shit, and DKC2's are way better, and they're actually like fun to seek out and play through. So
absolutely. Okay. God, this top corner over here. These are all like 10 out of 10 games in my opinion. This is gonna be really tough.
yeah.
Okay. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door versus Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I like the Thousand Year Door a good deal more than I like Forgotten Land. It's just kind of more my jam, I guess, than Forgotten Land.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually going to go Forgotten Land on this. I think Thousand Year Door is a really interesting game for me. I think I might have played it at just the wrong time. Sometimes you play a game at the right time, sometimes you play a game at the wrong time. There were a lot of elements of Thousand Year Door that didn't really click for me, where Forgotten Land is just like a super fun 3D collectathon. I 100%ed it. So yeah, for me, I'm going to go Forgotten Land.
Yeah, even if Forgotten Land, like I mentioned earlier, more of like, I guess, an inventive, like creative theme like Planet Robobot did. Even if that was the case, I think I'd still give the edge to Thousand Year Door, because Thousand Year Door is great. And it has the advantage of being an RPG. Even though Forgotten Land is a 3D platformer, which I also love. I got to give it to Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll get out in the next round, though. Okay, so now we
Oh
have
no, this one's gonna hurt.
Mother 3 versus Wii Sports Resort. I know where Pedro's going. I know where I'm going, so I'll just do that. But we'll talk about it. So, like I said, Mother 3, one of the best games Nintendo's ever made, period, full stop. And, you know, I just find myself thinking about it all the time. I think if you were to put both of these games in front of me right now, I'd play Mother 3 in an instant, even if it's like far more of a commitment than Wii Sports Resort is.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. It's kind of comes down to what sort of games you like. And I often find, as much as I love RPGs and I've grown to love sort of those more time commitment games, my foundations as a game lover comes from Wii Sports Resort. I just love sort of those more casual drop in and play for a few minutes, and I have so many great memories with it, and I think Wii Sports Resort brings people together. It's done that in my life a lot, so I'm sure maybe if I played Mother 3, I might pick that over it, but Wii Sports Resort is just like a true personal favorite of mine, so that's going to be my pick.
Mother 3 has a drug trip scene, so that one's better.
Agreed.
Can't argue with that.
So now we have Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga versus Zelda Link's Awakening. You know, I said Superstar Saga is a great game, but it's not really holding a candle to Link's Awakening for me personally. Like I said, it's just like one of my favorite Zeldas, and you know, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga is a good time. It's just not one of my favorite RPGs.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. I think Superstar Saga is a super fun game from what I've played of it, but Link's Awakening is just a terrific 2D Zelda game with a really memorable and inventive story, so Link's Awakening for sure.
I agree. Yeah. Superstar Saga, as great as it is, it didn't really stand a chance against Link's Awakening.
Yeah. God, okay, looking at this one, I didn't anticipate having to make a decision like this, but this is going to be tough.
Odd.
So we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed versus Mario Kart World. I think if you were to ask me in like 3 years, I would probably say Future Redeemed. But right now, I'm still kind of like on the Mario Kart World hype train, still playing it pretty regularly. So I'm gonna give it to Mario Kart World.
Yeah, recency bias might be a thing here for me, but I think I enjoy Mario Kart World more, I'd say. Xenoblade has all the elements of a Xenoblade game, which obviously make it incredible, but Mario Kart World, Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed specifically, is kind of just like more Xenoblade 3, where Mario Kart World is like this entirely fresh new thing that finally made Mario Kart feel exciting again after so long. So I'm going to give it to Mario Kart World as well.
Well, I'll again be the contrarian. If you put a Xenoblade game up against something, I'm going to pick Xenoblade. That's just like my 2 cents. As much as I love Mario Kart World, and you know, I'm probably the opposite. If anything, like I think the more time passes, I think I would see myself inch closer to Mario Kart World, especially considering that it'll more than likely get DLC that'll only make the game better. Future Redeemed is great, and it's Xenoblade, so that's my vote. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, unfortunately,
voted.
you know, I respect the pick, but it's gonna be Mario Kart World. All right, so now to the other side here, we have Zelda Wind Waker versus Super Metroid.
As much as I love Wind Waker, I'm probably going to give it to Super Metroid here, just because Wind Waker has a couple rough edges that I'm more than willing to look past because it's such an incredible game. But like some of the cut dungeons and like some of the islands are small and don't really have a lot of interesting stuff on them. And Super Metroid is just like near flawless from beginning to end. It's just like truly incredible achievement, especially for the time. So I'm going to go Super Metroid.
I concur. Super Metroid for me.
It's crazy to think that like if Wind Waker had more and much better dungeons, like it might end up being my favorite Zelda game, period. And even so, none of the Zelda games, as much as I love them, even my favorites, touch Super Metroid in my eyes. So yeah, my pick is Super Metroid.
You're going to be in for a rough time when we revisit this bracket. Okay, so now we have Breath of the Wild versus Melee. For me, it's Breath of the Wild. We talked about it. One of my favorite games ever. Melee, it's cool. You know, I respect it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite game of all time. Sometimes that shifts around, but yeah, I love Melee, but I've only played a few matches of it. And I think in terms of importance, Breath of the Wild is one of the only Nintendo games that could actually stand a chance against Melee because of such a huge impact that it's had on the gaming industry. So Yeah, I'm going Breath of the Wild.
I hate to say it because I can't wave dash in Breath of the Wild. I adore Melee, but I can't in good faith like say like, oh yeah, Melee is better than Breath of the Wild, like in terms of greatest Nintendo games ever made. Even though I would probably personally say it, I'll vote for Breath of the Wild. Even though it wouldn't matter either way which one I voted for. 'Cause
Yeah. Talk to me
you
when they
guys
put
already
wind bombing in
voted.
Melee.
True. Yeah, Breath of the Wild has its own like tech, so there's
Yeah.
that too. So
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
be too mad about it.
All right, so now we got Luigi's Mansion versus Super Mario Galaxy 2. These are like two childhood favorites for me, so this is tough, but I think I can pretty confidently say I'd prefer Galaxy 2.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, it's just got a lot more like going on. It leaves a much stronger impact on me personally, and I think I revisit it probably more frequently than I do Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah. Galaxy 2 just has the added benefit of being a really solid 3D platformer. And as much as I love Luigi's Mansion, it's just nothing beats moving around a 3D environment as Mario and the level design and all of that. So yeah, Galaxy 2.
I'm the opposite in terms of like I revisit Luigi's Mansion more, but yeah, it's Galaxy 2. It's just such Galaxy 2 is a phenomenal platformer. It's,
All right.
as much as I love like the atmosphere and vibes of Luigi's Mansion, just it can't touch like the 3D platformer like pilled brain that I have. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's my pick.
Okay, so now, this is going to be a tough one for me. Zelda Twilight Princess versus Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Ooh. Someone else talk. I don't know.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's gonna be Xenoblade for me. It's like I said, it's my favorite game. So
Yeah.
as for as great as Twilight Princess is, you know, like I wouldn't be mad if it advanced forward either. That's just how great Twilight Princess is, but Xenoblade is just in another league in my eyes. So
Yeah, on the right day, I might say Twilight Princess is better in some ways, but Xenoblade Chronicles has been in and out of my top 3 favorite games of all time, where Twilight Princess has never really made it that high. So for me, it's Xenoblade as well.
God, yeah, okay, I flip-flop on Twilight Princess and Majora's Mask, kind of occupying my like top 3 favorite Zeldas. That said, I think I probably like Xenoblade 1 more. As much as it pains me to say, that one will have to move on. Sorry, Twilight Princess. Now we have Metroid Dread versus A Link Between Worlds. I'm pretty confident saying I would go Metroid Dread. You know, I like A Link Between Worlds a lot, but it's not like the same level as like a lot of my other favorite Zeldas. If we were talking like Twilight Princess or Majora's Mask versus Metroid Dread, that might be a conversation, but Metroid Dread is genuinely like one of my favorite Nintendo games.
I think I'm actually going to go A Link Between Worlds here, because A Link Between Worlds is probably my favorite 2D Zelda, as well as just one of my favorite Zeldas in general. I adore that game. And Metroid Dread is also just incredible, and they're both kind of similar in like respecting the history of their series and everything, but I think it might just come down to my Zelda bias that I like the gameplay style better, so for me it's A Link Between Worlds.
I'm gonna go with Metroid Dread.
Thank
Just
God.
because again, I'm more of a Metroid game than more of a Metroid game. Cut that out.
You got it.
I'm more of a Metroid guy than Zelda, than a Zelda guy. So as much as I really, really love The Link Between Worlds, Metroid Dread's just like its world design, the speed and the movement and the upgrades you get is just peak 2D Metroid and Super Metroid, but you know,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
one already moved forward.
Okay, so now we have A Link to the Past versus Super Mario Galaxy. And this is kind of a similar thing for me. Like, I love A Link to the Past. Probably not up there among like my absolute favorite Zeldas, but Super Mario Galaxy is my favorite Mario game, and it's like one of the few games I had just like constantly with me throughout my childhood. So it's very special to me in that way, and it's just like one I can jump into and have a great time no matter like what's going on. So that's my pick.
Yep, I'm the same. Super Mario Galaxy wins here. Where I picked A Link to the Past over Metroid Prime, I think that was just because A Link to the Past has such a bigger impact in that specific scenario, but here Galaxy gets a lot closer to having the same level of impact. So now my personal opinion of Mario Galaxy being a terrific game just kind of overtakes A Link to the Past. So yeah, Galaxy for sure.
Wow. Eliminated
I
my
can,
favorite Metroid just to have that game get out on the second round. Metroid Prime 2
Yeah.
probably would have beat Mario Galaxy for me.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. Sorry, Pedro. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I can make up for my earlier sin of eliminating Metroid Prime 2 by, picking Mario Galaxy now, I guess, and getting A Link to the Past out of the running.
All right. Yeah, I just have a vendetta now against that game for taking out one of my favorites. So now we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna Golden Country versus Super Mario Sunshine. I think I would probably lean toward Torna personally. I don't have the same kind of bullshit relationship with Torna as I do Sunshine. Torna is just like a no-nonsense great game all the way throughout. Whereas Sunshine, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I have a lot of hatred toward it. I come back to it to, punish myself regularly. Torna's okay, I want a good game. I'm going to play Torna. I'm going to give the edge to Torna. As blasphemous as that may be.
Yeah, mine is kind of boring with this one since I haven't played Torna, so Sunshine is my go-to with this because of its amazing summertime vibes, and despite all its janky horribleness, I still love that game. So I'm going to go Sunshine.
It's going to be Torna for me because, again, Xenoblade. But this is surprisingly tougher than I expected.
I kind of expected you to go for Sunshine, not going to lie.
Yeah, this was closer than I expected. I saw the two next to each other and I was like, oh, you know what? Let me think about this for a second. But no, at the end of the day, I think because of Torna's connection to the base game of Xenoblade 2, like I mentioned before, how they complement each other really well, in my opinion. I think that gives it the edge for me.
All right, there we have it. So we know, I think, have a pretty good idea at least of what's going to advance here. So this will be an interesting matchup. We have Metroid Fusion versus Xenoblade Chronicles 2. For me, it's Xenoblade, the grand RPG with all the right mechanics and music and characters and story and whatnot to tickle your brain versus a pretty great Metroid game, but nothing absolutely incredible, So it's going to be Xenoblade for me.
Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward for me too. I love Metroid Fusion, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 just is doing a lot more interesting stuff on a larger scale with a grander vision for the narrative and everything. There's in some ways I like Fusion more in very specific ways, but overall it's Xenoblade 2 for sure. Yeah.
They're such different games.
Yeah, it's hard to compare.
On one hand, Metroid Fusion has never made me look over my shoulder while playing in the living room, in case my parents ever walked in. But again, it's Xenoblade 2 is going forward.
Next round, one of the Xenoblades must die.
Yeah.
Not
We'll
on that
see,
watch.
though. Okay, so we have 16 games left, and now it'll start getting real tough. So we have Ocarina of Time versus Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I respect Ocarina of Time, I absolutely love it, but Xenoblade 3 is just one of those games that's too close to my heart to touch.
I'm gonna go Ocarina of Time here because I love Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but Ocarina of Time is just I truly think that's one of the best games ever made, the way it's aged so amazingly. And since, Xenoblade 3 isn't really my favorite, I think Ocarina of Time is what I'm doing here.
I realized what I just said earlier, but this is still tough. It hurts to leave Ocarina of Time behind. I'm gonna have to give my vote to Xenoblade 3.
You were scaring me.
Wow, Ocarina of Time out. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it went pretty far, so can't fault us too much on that. Now we have Majora's Mask versus Donkey Kong Country 2. Ooh. So Majora's Mask is probably my second or third favorite Zelda. Donkey Kong Country 2 is one of my absolute favorite 2D platformers. I'm not sure where that would rank exactly, but it's pretty even matchup, I'd say, for me personally. And I'm gonna be the tiebreaker. I don't know. Someone else figure it out.
Oh man, this is kind of a tough one since they're so different. I'm gonna go Majora's Mask just because at the end of the day, I'd rather be stuck in a dungeon where I'm confused than stuck on a platforming segment that feels designed to piss me off. So I'm gonna go Majora's Mask. That's a weird reason, but
This one's tough because I'd always in terms of replayability, I'd always go back to DKC2 over Majora's Mask. But if Majora's Mask's characters and side quests weren't so compelling, I'd probably give it to DKC2. But but I'm not to give it to Majora's Mask just because of its story elements when it comes to, again, like its NPC characters and the side stories that are in that game.
Okay. You know, like when you're at a restaurant and you're between like two options on the menu, so you flip a coin and then you're like disappointed with the result. That's kind of like how I feel. Like I think if Donkey Kong Country 2 won amongst y'all, I would have been sad, but I'm glad it's Majora's Mask. Okay, so now we have Paper Mario Thousand Year Door versus Mother 3. And it's going to be Mother 3 for me.
Since I haven't played Mother 3, I'm going to vote Thousand Year Door.
Mother 3.
All right.
It's no. Unfortunately, Thousand Year Door is great, but it's no contest.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. We got Link's Awakening versus Mario Kart World, and this is actually really tough. I think I want to go Link's Awakening.
Yeah, this is a super weird matchup.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go Link's Awakening as well, but it's really close. I think Link's Awakening's ending and like the impact that has on me is just it gives it the edge over Mario Kart World, but it's a surprisingly close one for kind of the strange matchup that it is. But yeah, I'm going to go Link's Awakening.
Maybe if Mario Kart World had more Donkey Kong outfits, it might win. But as it stands, Link's Awakening.
All right. So that side is done now. We're down to our final four on the left side. Now we got this side. We have Super Metroid versus Breath of the Wild, and that's really sad. I know what I'm going to pick, but it's not any easier. It's Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm. Yep, me as well.
I cry. I'm crying tears right now. I would pick Super Metroid, just making that clear.
Wow.
For as great as Breath of the Wild is, but I would pick Super Metroid. It's just, to me, it's just unmatched. Like few games could top Super Metroid for me, but
Yeah.
I get it.
It's really sad that it has to be eliminated. It's one of those that could absolutely go to the top 8. Okay, so now we have Super Mario Galaxy 2 versus Xenoblade Chronicles. It's a tough one. My gut is telling me Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp.
You already know my answer.
Yeah.
As much as I really love Galaxy 2.
Damn.
It's so interesting that they both came out the same year and they pitted
Yeah.
against each other.
Yeah, it's painful that Galaxy 2 is getting 3-0'd, but you know, sometimes just how it goes. Okay. Metroid Dread versus Super Mario Galaxy. I'm going to take what might be the contrarian answer. I'm going to say Metroid Dread.
Wow. Okay.
I'm definitely going to go Galaxy.
I think I have to go Galaxy. I adore Metroid Dread, but just if it weren't for that thing I mentioned earlier about like Galaxy just having me in awe so much, like when I first saw it, I'd probably give it to Dread. Yeah, for me, it's Galaxy. I think it's one of the greatest Nintendo games ever made. Just period.
And that's valid. I'm not mad at it. And now we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 versus its expansion. Yeah, for me, it's the base game.
Yeah, and I'm going base game too since I haven't played Torna. So
I would say obviously base game, but like I have heard people saying that they like Torna more than the base game. And I can see why.
Yeah, I absolutely get it.
You know,
yeah,
it's not as uncommon as one might think, but yeah, it's got to be. It's the base game for me.
Okay, who would have thought that Xenoblade 2 would make it to the final? What is this? Final 8? What the fuck? What are we doing?
My 17-year-old self wouldn't have. That's for sure.
If it was up to me, Octo Expansion would have knocked it out.
So we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 versus Majora's Mask. So yeah, these are both games that are really close to my heart. It's Xenoblade 3.
I'm going Majora's Mask all the way.
Ah, dude. I don't get called a liar. Shoot. They're both so good. I've been glazing Xenoblade all this time, but I think Majora's Mask just has slightly more of an edge for me. And only because like I think I can confidently say that I like Xenoblade 1 and 2 more than 3. I mean, not by a lot, mind you. But like with Majora's Mask, that is like constantly in contention for like my favorite Zelda game. I'm sorry, Xenoblade. I know I said that I wouldn't eliminate any of you, but it's got to be Majora's Mask.
No, I mean, I am mad at it, but I respect it. I get it. Okay. Mother 3 versus Link's Awakening. It's Mother 3 for me, and it's honestly not as close as I thought it would be.
I go Link's Awakening
Yeah.
just because I haven't played it, but yeah.
Yeah, poor Hero. He's just been getting steamrolled by us with the Mother 3 matchups. 'Cause,
I'm
yeah,
getting
it's Mother
strong
3.
signals from the universe that I need to play Mother 3.
Yeah, you really do. Because I'm spoiler, I'm gonna take it over Majora's Mask. So we have Breath of the Wild versus Xenoblade Chronicles. It really sucks that I have to eliminate Xenoblade 1, but it's gonna be Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly close thing for me, but I have to go Breath of the Wild just because of how massive an impact it's had on me. So, yep, I'm going Breath of the Wild.
You motherfuckers. You. All right.
It had to happen eventually.
Fine. Fine.
Super Mario Galaxy versus Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It would be really silly if this one made it to the top 4, but honestly, like, I don't know. I don't know. This one is a lot closer than I would have thought for me. I'll hear everyone else's take first.
It's not super close for me, honestly. It's Galaxy, definitely.
I got to give it to Xenoblade 2.
Oh no,
Sorry.
you're gonna make me
Oh,
bring
boy.
the tie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Xenoblade 2 make it farther than the original? That would be crazy.
Yeah, I think the more I think about it, it's got to be Galaxy for me. Like, it's really close, but yeah, it's Galaxy. God, I kind of wish I went for Xenoblade 2, but I got to be honest with myself. It would just be really funny for it to be in the top 4. Okay, Majora's Mask versus Mother 3. It's Mother 3 for me.
Majora's Mask for me.
If this was like any other game, it'd probably be Majora's Mask. But yeah, it's Mother 3 for me.
All right. There's our finalist right there from the left side. Breath of the Wild versus Super Mario Galaxy. It's Breath of the Wild for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, same here. If there's a game that could be Breath of the Wild, it would probably be Super Mario Galaxy, but Breath of the Wild is still number 1.
You got to take Pedro. It won't matter, but
It won't matter, but my take was Mario Galaxy.
wow.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Does that mean
so
you-
Oh,
put-
that's how good I think Mario Galaxy is.
Does that mean you'd put Xenoblade 2 above Breath of the Wild?
Yeah,
wow.
Ooh, wow.
I would.
Good thing that didn't happen.
Here are our finalists. We have Breath of the Wild and Mother 3. I know how each of you are going to vote, so I'll be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to go Breath of the Wild.
Mother 3. Just give it to me already.
Yeah, so I think if I had played Mother 3 a couple years ago and, had time since then to replay it and like reflect on it a little more, I could genuinely see it being my favorite. But I have had that time with Breath of the Wild, and for that reason, it's going to be Breath of the Wild.
Wait. But does Breath of the Wild have the Adam West Batman theme?
It does not, but Mother 3 does not have wind bombing.
Shit.
There it is. There it is.
Fine.
All right, there we have it. Breath of the Wild is the winner of the bracket. It is the greatest Nintendo game ever released, in our opinion.
I'm sure nobody will have a problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, what else could it have been? Definitely
Such
not.
an IGN-ass pick.
Yeah, but
I'm
you know.
I'm livid right now.
Maybe we'll do it again in a couple of years when more Switch 2 games come out so they can get eliminated in the first round, and then Mother 3
Yeah.
can take it. All right, there we have it. Breath of the Wild is the winner.